hectic.
So let me tell you what happened was I had
Mhm.
my interview with you set up. I had the whole thing written out. 30 minutes before, deleted the file.
It's okay. It's okay. It happens,
I
right?
know it
Yeah.
definitely does. It definitely does. But how are you doing? First of all, how's your week been?
Busy as
Yeah.
that's normal. That's normal. Usually my weekends are very hectic, very that on top of working full time, momming full time,
Right.
painting as well, things like that.
Yeah.
How has yours been as well?
Honestly, I'm gonna say I don't have kids, so it's not as hectic on the kids front, but definitely just trying to work on projects and paintings as well that are
Yeah.
remain unfinished. But overall, I would say I had a good week, you know. But I'm just really grateful for you being here, and I appreciated you responding to that and
Sure.
wanting to be a part of this. So
For
I'm
sure.
just gonna get it rolling. This is
Okay.
episode 1 of my podcast. It's Our Time podcast. And I have the honor, the privilege, and just the gratitude of having the wonderful artist Marteja join me today. And am I saying your name correctly?
It is actually Marteja.
Marteja. How beautiful, Marteja.
So much.
And I just want to jump right in. I want to get to know more about the artist. So tell me a little bit about yourself, your family, and your beautiful daughter who graces your page often.
Yes, for sure. Well, again, my name is Marteja. I'm an artist. I love, 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 love to paint. That is, for me, it's kind of hard to describe the feeling that I get when I paint. It's like you kind of go into this different space, and I can't say nothing else matters, because that's not true. But mentally it puts me somewhere that's just at peace, really. So much peace. I've never had that type of experience before, especially when it comes to doing, something myself. And it just makes me happy. That's the best way to put it. It just makes me feel happy. I have a daughter, my 2-year-old. That kind of kick started me into actually using painting as a business, trying to, push out my art and do what I need to do to get it out there. Is very tough as an artist, I think. It's so tough, and it's really easy to get discouraged. Um, just because of, I don't even look at it as a limited opportunity kind of thing. Is there's plenty of opportunities out there for artists, but with so many artists out there, it can be a little bit overwhelming, especially in terms of thinking that you're going to be able to make something out of it. But in my opinion, as long as you love something, you're passionate about it, whatever, and you keep going, the sky is going to be the limit for that. If you train your mind to think, hey, this is possible
Mhm.
for me and for anyone, regardless, as long as I put myself out there to make it happen. So that's been a great experience. It's only been a year, but I'm happy about it.
It's
For sure.
only been a year for your artist journey or a year
Oh
into
yeah,
motherhood?
in
Mhm.
general. So
Really?
yeah, before this September is actually my year mark of, consistency with being an artist.
Mhm.
Prior to that, I would call it like self-care. Like I would paint once a year, if that, for
Mhm.
self-care. And it was literally just me just doing stuff like painting circles or some random flowers.
I don't know what it is about circles,
Yeah,
but
just circles.
there's so
Like
much fun to
it's
paint.
fun, right? It's
Yeah.
just fun. Like I was having fun, which is still that's what you're supposed to do anyway with art, is have fun. But I would literally just paint to paint. And I loved it even then, but it wasn't something that I thought, hey, I could do this
Yeah.
and be successful at this. I didn't look because I couldn't even draw, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I couldn't draw. So I was like, yeah, no, this is, this is fun. And
But
then, oh, what was that? I'm sorry.
looking at your art, I would never have guessed that. Like looking just through your profile, I was like, no, there's no way. That's why when you said a year, I was like, let me make sure she's talking about, because you said your daughter's too. She's not talking about motherhood. She's talking about the painting. I was
Mhm.
like, that's astounding to me.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. That's like I told you, it's literally love and happiness. That's why it's been, I think it's so, I wouldn't even say it's easy because I watch a lot of YouTube videos. I study other artists. I'm a visual learner, so that helps a lot. So me just studying other artists, looking at their different techniques, utilizing those same techniques with my art, that I attribute that to the reason why I was able to pick up on different things so fast. That
Uh,
and passion, but you putting forth effort to learn different things, that's attached to passion. It always goes back to that. So, but yeah, it's been a year.
oh my God, that's amazing. And your beautiful daughter, I always see her on your page. That's amazing to see. And then the other thing that I was just taken aback by is that you're studying to be an Africana studies
Mhm.
professor. I
Yes.
mean, like amazing. So what
Mhm.
drew you to that subject and what drew you to that profession?
Well, I'll tell you this. Back when I was in undergrad, I actually took an African American literature class, and then that was like my sophomore year, sophomore year. I would say sophomore year. It had to be my sophomore year. And when I took that class, that kind of changed my entire perspective of everything because growing up, I actually grew up in an area that was military. So
Mm,
I was around a bunch of different cultures, but I never really dived into my own. It just wasn't taught.
yeah,
So whenever I got to undergrad and I started taking classes specific to, African Americans and learning different people, learning about different literature, different authors, that pretty much opened my mind and changed everything. Because I only wanted to be an English teacher. So that's what
yeah.
I was going to school for and teach writing, stuff like that. So whenever that happened, I was like, okay, I'm lighting up on the inside for this. So I need to shift here. And I actually was a women and gender studies minor. So the class was actually about like Black women authors.
Yeah.
So imagine that, like, I never really read a lot of female Black authors. So
There's
that
just
was eye-opening for me.
so much connection between your art to your
Mhm.
profession to what inspires you. It's also intricate
Yes,
and it is powerful. Like that's the word I could say can conjoin all of those things. And I can see that there's such an intertwine between like your passions and then how you're pushing that to also be your livelihood. Like
absolutely.
that's impeccable.
Thank you. Thank you. And a lot of people, I don't really think I talk about it that much on my page. Not really for any specific reason. It's just for me, like TikTok is for promotion of the art, but the actual art itself, I wanted to speak to, you know, like people have your own perception of what it is. And then obviously I give a description, whatever the case is, but it all just goes back to the art. But you're absolutely right. It's all connected. Even I'll tell you this, I don't know if you watched my video about the Say Her Name piece. That was actually inspired by a song, but it was honestly already in my mind because I did my final project for my master's program on Marielle Franco.
Yeah.
So it all connected back to that project. And
Mm,
like you said, it goes back full circle into just who I am
yeah.
in general. So people thought it was just a tribute piece, but no, like it was in my mind. And I
Mm,
wanted to do something that was pulled from what I had been studying for so long. And I wanted to see these women because Marielle is from Brazil, right? But the same issues that are happening here are happening in so many different parts of the world, but nobody even realizes that, and they only relate it to a US issue, but it's
yeah.
an everywhere kind of
Yeah.
issue. So that's where that painting comes from.
Mhm.
So it just, I have more, in my mind up my sleeve that I want to translate into the art. It's just you got to kind of take it one painting at a
I
time.
know,
Yeah.
I know. That's the thing about it, but you're absolutely right. And we're gonna follow that down the conversation where the art and the activism and the social change completely intertwined with one another, because that was your tribute pieces were some of the first that caught my eye. And from there, I was hooked. Like, I wanted to understand the tonality that you use, and the focus. And because it's very clear who your primary audience is. It's clear where your heart is, and it's clear where your fight is. You
Mm,
know, like, you come to your page, I know, I know where that is. You know, I know where your heart lies. And so we're gonna get towards that completely. And in getting to know the artist, I want to know your three top favorite foods. What are they to cook and to eat?
okay. I'm not gonna lie to you. After being becoming a mom, I realized I really don't like to cook. I just do it if I have to. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan, but I am a big fish person. Salmon is one of my favorites. I love mahi mahi. Sushi is a winner, and honestly,
Same.
the reason why is because sushi I just go buy it, but the two fish types are super easy to cook, and that's why.
Yes, honestly, I'm down with the fish too. It's easy to cook. It doesn't take much time. Throw some veggies or make it a curry. You got leftover.
Anything easy, I'm fine with anything easy. I do not like to cook. I
Oh
don't.
my
I
God.
thought I did though. I thought I did. I don't.
See, we all start out that way, but it's nice to also have somebody be able to cook for you. I say I want to marry a chef.
Oh, wouldn't that be beautiful? That would be so nice. DoorDash is my life, but yes, marrying a chef would be beautiful, wouldn't it?
That would be solid, because I can learn, but then they also, like, chefs are so focused on being of service. I'm
Mhm.
like, you know what? Go for it. Go
Need,
for it.
I need. I would. I'm pretty sure I would feel the same. Yeah,
Right?
it happens though.
Uh, and so another thing that really I was just I felt it had a lot of intention was the name of your website.
It
Love,
did.
yeah.
So
Mhm.
I'll tell you this now. Eventually I do plan on making that more of a kind of a blog. Um,
Mm,
the actual art itself is going to be rebranded. I just haven't gotten to changing the name for that yet. That website is going to change to also Art by Marteja.
okay.
But that name, I think, is more me as just a person. Um,
Mm,
so I do, like I said, all of it goes with, issues within the Black community. My art does, especially, and then mental health as well. um but that specific name was more for like self-care, self-love, things like that. So eventually I am going to have two separate entities, one for the art and then one specific to self-care and self-love. So
yeah.
that's where that name came from, but it's gonna be changed
That's the name. I
eventually.
think it's beautiful, but I like that it's evolved. I like that for you, it's changed into something that, you want it to expand, and you have a vision for it. You want it to be a blog, and
Yes,
it's transformed itself over time. And in the beginning, it served, what it did for your artwork. So, but I loved it. It drew me in, and I thought it had a lot of intention to it. So
for
honestly, I
sure.
love that. And I look forward to seeing what you just expressed, how that duality is going to come forth.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Couple of layers there. Couple of layers.
That's actually the next thing that I say is I notice the vibrancy of your colors and the layers upon layers to create the tones that you have. You know, what
Yeah.
mediums do you use?
Only
What are
oil.
you
Only
only
oil.
oil?
Yeah, I'm only an oil painter. I like to use linseed oil too, just as a not that's it's crazy. A lot of people say that's a medium, but it's just a thinner or something. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really get all into that, but technically the medium I use is oil. And
How
that's
is
it.
it?
I'm not an acrylic. I can't do acrylic. It's so hard. Like people say it's the opposite, but for me, acrylic is so hard. I just because that's the thing. People, I think, become intimidated by oil, but for me, oil
Mm,
is the most beginner friendly paint because acrylic dries so fast. Whereas with oil, if you make a mistake, the paint is still dry. You can
mm,
go back and adjust. So that helps me in my mind because, like I said, I've only been painting for a year.
yeah,
So I like to be able to go back and shift
yeah.
and I can't do that with acrylic. It just, mm-mm.
I don't know if it's maybe we need to challenge one another because I've never painted
Mm.
with, I only paint with acrylics, period. I've never tried oils before.
You
So
got it's life changing. I did acrylic in the beginning. I did, and it was not it.
no,
Like it wasn't it. Oil, I had the same thoughts with oil. Then I started with oil and it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. And I was like, well, this is not gonna work. I'm gonna shift back to acrylic. And then something told me, okay, try oil again because I watched some sort of tutorial or something like that. And when I did that, I was like, okay, it's making sense, but let me tell you what I did. I
hmm,
started, a lot of people do this actually. I started with acrylic as my first layer, and then I added the oil on the top and then just built it that way because the colors were already mapped out with the acrylic. And then I was like, okay, well, this is kind of starting to make sense. And then I
right.
just started using oil. That's it.
I gotta really try out the oil. I've always been interested in it and I like the glow of it and
Oh,
it
that's amazing.
the way it makes everything look so real. But I'm
I
like, I'm I'm a little nervous about, but I think after what you said, I think I'm inspired to at least take the plunge to try it.
have to. You have to because look, it's gonna be bad sometimes, but
Yeah,
like I said, I experienced and speaking from experience, it was horrible.
yeah.
And then
It
better.
comes. It
Yeah,
comes. You
better.
start to align with the passion. Like it starts to tell you, don't be so afraid anymore. Like come through, I got you.
No, I promise you, that's the thing. You have to take away fear when it comes to art. Because
Mm,
there's so many, like honestly, if we were all doing things perfect or exact or like, all art would look the same.
yeah,
So when you just do what you think is okay,
that's
boom,
it.
that's
That's
it.
really it. Yeah,
That's
that is
it.
so
Yeah.
true.
Mm.
And like I noticed two things about your artwork. Like you have a portrait style artwork, and then at the same time you have the abstract
Yes.
art that goes on. So what I want to know is what comes up in your mind when you paint the portraits, and how is the process different from when you paint abstract?
Honestly, I'll tell you this. Whenever I do like portrait painting, like this right here and stuff like that,
Mhm.
sometimes, like I said, I am more free with it, but then it gets to a point where you have to be kind of meticulous with, what you do, and then it becomes kind of draining. So, like, I end up being like, okay, everything is, I have to make it not perfect, but perfect to me.
Mhm.
So once I have that type of point, I end up shifting to like an abstract painting next because I feel like I can be more free. And
Yeah.
it gives me a moment of just doing whatever I want. And if it to me it makes sense. Whereas with this one right here, now I'm at
Yeah.
the point where I'm going to go in and do like the fine detailing, and you can't just do anything with that because then you can mess something up. So yeah, once I get to that point, it's just like this for me. But the portrait style, there's actually a reason why I do more portraits than anything. And that's because I've always been fascinated by like the face and
Mhm.
expressions and stuff like that. I don't know if you've probably seen me talk about this, but I think that the eyes hold so much.
Mhm.
And I love eyes. I love the eyes because I think you can really tell so much through that. And I focus on that because that's kind of what draws me a lot is the
Yeah.
face. So I've been trying to get into doing different things, like adding more figures or just more faces in general. But yeah, it's always going to be about the face for me, just because that's just that's what I pay attention to, really. So yeah.
No, the eyes definitely, I noticed that you put a lot of emphasis and a
Mhm.
lot of attention on the eyes. And
Mhm.
each of your portraits really has a different um, or in a different vibe to the intensity of the eyes. Some are
Yeah,
so gentle, but some are just like piercing at you, you
yeah,
know? And I think the eyes and the face of the most recent painting that you have with the crown behind her.
yeah.
And yeah, that one, her face is just, there's no way but to like zoom in on that. You focus right there and then you take in the crown and then you're forced to kind of step back and take it all in.
Painting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a beautiful painting.
I like doing that. I don't know why. Like
Yeah.
I really, like I said, the face is very important to me. that is very important. The rest is great too, don't get me wrong, but the face is everything in a
Hmm.
painting, I think.
Yeah.
So maybe one day I'll change it up. I don't know. But right now, I like to have the face as the focal point, just because that's the main story is in the face. Even with that one is called Goddess Energy, right? So the face is supposed to draw the person in, but you have to look into the eyes, because becoming to that level, in my opinion, is not an easy feat. And it's always a story behind that. So if you
Yeah.
have eyes, the painting can be beautiful, but you look at her eyes, you see the pain behind that,
Yeah.
because
Hmm.
that's a progression to get to that point to where you feel that way.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's it's like one of my favorites. All of them are my
Completely.
favorites. I'm lying,
Yeah.
but
They're
yeah,
beautiful.
that's one of them.
They're beautiful. And I like what you said, that it goes through a lot in order for your eyes to look that way, and that your face is truly your storyteller. You can look at it and you can recognize, the same with the hands, kind of a thing, when you can look at somebody's hands and you can tell the kind of history that they have.
For sure.
But with your painting, another thing that I appreciate is that not many people get the opportunity to look into a goddess's eyes. They don't, because a
Yeah,
goddess will say, no, you're not worth that or this or that. But
exactly.
the power that you instill allows people to put their guard down, and then to go look into the eyes, to go look at a goddess's eyes and see what's behind that. Because we just see a goddess in one way, which is
Mhm.
just power, but we don't understand that there's pain there, that there's a story there, a narrative there. So I really appreciate your focus on that face, and it definitely was one of the things that drew me into your artwork.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I could tell that you just feel good when you paint Black women, like that, even your face.
Because that is a very, I don't want to say it's a touchy subject for me,
Yeah.
but one thing, and I don't agree with saying never, but
Mhm.
one thing I vowed was I will not paint anyone that is not a person of color. And I hate to say that, because I love all people. I
Yeah.
do. I genuinely do. But for me as an artist, what I connect with is people of color. So
Yeah.
that's where my passion is from, is people of color, specifically Black people.
Yeah. Hmm.
So that's why I don't accept commissions.
Yeah.
I don't do that, because to me, I don't want to have to, honestly, I don't have a problem with telling somebody no, but I would rather it be one of those ones where I just say, okay,
Yeah.
my art is my art, and this is what I'm going to create, kind of
Yeah.
ordeal. And
Hmm.
the reason also ties into, that's it. I'm only going to paint people of color.
Yeah. Hmm.
And that's what it is.
I can relate so much to that, because the stories that I write, the narratives that I write, and the art that I paint is also from that root. And
Mhm,
I'm not going to move about it. I'm not
mhm.
going to negotiate on it. But I allow you to come into that world,
Right.
and I
You can
give you the
view it
opportunity.
and you can
Yeah.
appreciate it,
Yep.
but
it's
that's
not
it.
gonna it's not gonna change that, and yeah, and I can see that. And later on in the conversation, I want to talk about how you deal with that resistance, because I can imagine that people tell you, you need to expand
Mhm.
what you're drawing about, what you're painting about, what you're expressing about. And I can just imagine. But I want to highlight for you, the women in your life that inspire this elegance, this beauty, this vulnerability that you paint in the Black women in your portraits.
That's a tough one, because, like I said, I'm really inspired by pretty much all women. Like anybody, I could see just a random woman walking, right? And I'm going to feel something. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like just a Black woman feeling good or feeling happy. It doesn't matter what that looks like. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? That just Black woman being her, just a Black
yeah,
woman, that's going to make me feel something.
yeah,
So it's hard to pinpoint exactly who. Obviously my mother is one of my biggest inspirations, supporters in general, but all of it really just ties into women, just because it's very tough because I hate to bring up gender in this type of conversation, but one thing I've always thought about, even and this stuck with me back in school.
Mm,
So, like I said, I was a women and gender studies minor.
mhm,
Talked about the civil rights movement, women and gender rights, women's rights movement. We
mhm,
talked about that. And even in both of those movements, Black women always took a back seat, right?
yeah, mhm,
So that is always in my mind.
mhm,
And I always feel a level of passion, inspiration from Black women because we're always getting the short end of the stick.
yeah,
So yeah, so you'll see me painting a lot of Black women because that's where my push lies, and that's where I'm raising a Black woman.
yeah,
So I always try my best to paint that in the most beautiful way that I can whenever I can for that reason, and
yeah,
many a different reasons, honestly. So yeah,
yeah.
but it
I,
stems from that.
Yeah, there's such a power to the Black woman that the world appreciates and recognizes, but then wants to diminish and really put the light out on. It's
Exactly.
so undeniable though. Like I think that's the one thing that no matter how many lies are told about the Black woman, no matter what the narrative, the story is, there are truths about us that cannot be taken by any of those false, premises. And I think most of them come often from an insecurity when when you're looking at it in that regard. When you're belittling somebody, it usually does not come from a place that you feel powerful or you feel empowered, so that leaves. Mhm.
That's
Please.
how we have to empower each other.
Mhm.
So
Big
that's
time.
why I said whenever I see a Black woman, instantly I feel
Yeah.
something because that is a Black woman. It doesn't matter how she feels about me, what she thinks
Yes.
about me. I know what I'm going to think about her because that again is another Black woman. And
Yeah.
that's just what it is. That's why I said that's who I'm going to paint. And
Yeah.
that's it.
And I love what you just said. I don't, it doesn't matter what she feels about me. I know how I feel about her.
Exactly.
Because it's so much more deeper than just who this woman is that's just disliking me at this moment. There's a history of pain and a history behind that woman for her to be feeling this way. I don't believe that dislike from a Black woman to another is all her dislike. Sometimes it can be, but I think it's much more deeply layered than that. And so that brings me to, do you feel pressured to limit your art expression in terms of the subject? Do you get the pressure from people? How does that go?
I mean, I get a lot, but it doesn't really change anything. I just like this. No. That's it. No.
Like that's
Uh,
it.
yeah, no. So I don't know what else I'm supposed to say. I just go
Yeah.
like this because
Hmm.
what else am I supposed to do? If I create something outside of what I've already set my mind on, then I might as well not create because what's the
Yeah.
point? Some other artists can do that because that's
Right.
what they want to do. That's what they want to create. But I'm not going to do that because that's not reflective to me as a person or an artist. So I just
Yeah.
it's literally no. I'll give you an example. It's outside of just me painting people of color. My mom actually was at Marteja, can you please stop painting people with tears? I said, for what? That's what I felt like painting. You know
Yes.
what I'm saying? Even if you don't want to see the tears, I'm
Mhm.
still going to do that because that's what I felt in that moment.
Yeah.
So you have to have that mental ground to
Yeah.
accept criticism, accept what someone says, but then make the ultimate decision on what you're going to do. That's
Absolutely.
just what it is in both instances.
Absolutely. And the criticism might seem like, but sometimes it's such a compliment.
Mhm.
Like, you must really have felt something from those tears for it to pull out for you to say, I can't visually see this. Like, can you hone it down? And that's powerful. That's what artists want to do, especially when they're so committed to their work.
Absolutely.
I want you to feel something. I want you something to come up for you. And then I'm okay with the resistance. You can resist that. It's fine. But I just listen to the words that you say.
Mhm.
because tears are such a human thing. You
Mhm.
know, they express so much and they release so much, and they're really, really important to our whole existence. So for that to for a painting to provoke that you want somebody to stop doing that, that means it's doing a wonderful thing. But I can imagine you dealing with that.
This is my
And
case again. I wanted to add tears. That's what. Okay, there is actually a reason for that. I'll tell you the reason. So while painting, like I said, it's a release for me. In
Mhm,
the moment, I was having a very rough day, and
mhm,
I wanted to cry, but I did not. So to me, viewing this painting, I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and add this because this is what I'm feeling right now. This is what I'm feeling. This is what feels right to me for the painting anyway.
mhm.
So this is actually called Mixed Emotions. I haven't finished it yet, obviously, but it's called Mixed Emotions. And literally because I was having mixed emotions while painting it. So yeah,
Amazing.
that's it.
And and is it just half of the face
Uh-huh.
that is, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
because in my
beautiful.
mind, half of the face, I actually have another painting that's only half of the face. And I do
Yeah.
that from time to time because, like I said, the face tells it all. And sometimes, like, it's called mixed emotions. The other half could be crying, one half could be okay. And you wouldn't even know that person wanted to be
And
like this,
that's
the other side and crying. So
yeah,
I wanted to do just half for that reason.
I love that.
But
And
like I said, it wasn't meant to be tears, but it was the same concept. You were still going to be able to see, from the
yeah,
expression on this side that it was a more of a sad type of painting.
it's just really beautiful to look at, and like to see the harmony of the red tones with the gold, and then the expression where the tears start to fall down. And it's just,
Mhm.
I know that moment, that moment where your tears are falling down and your eyes just close and you're squeezing and
Mhm.
you're just releasing so much. And I
Right.
and I think that that's just incredible. How large is it of a portrait?
40 by 60.
Oh, nice.
Yes, it's big.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, it's big. So a lot of people don't know that on TikTok though. But I don't care. Like I said,
Yeah.
there's no point. It's a really big painting, but like it's pretty big, and it's crazy because I think sometimes with my work you really don't see the most
Yeah.
minor details that I put in unless you're in person. Like I am very nuts when it
Mhm.
comes to like the smallest detail. Like okay, I'll show you. For example, this is not even the smallest brush I'm
Oh
using.
my,
You see how big the painting is? The brush that I have is like half this and a lot thinner on
oh
this
my
big of a painting.
God.
It's excessive.
No,
I'm sorry. I think it's excessive. I really do.
I think I see in one of your videos you were like talking about the paintings that's left over, the paint.
I'm always being very honest. I'm dead serious. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really bad.
But do you enjoy painting large scale versus like smaller scale?
That's
Yeah.
my preference. Yeah. Yeah,
Ooh.
that's my preference. I don't want to say I've grown out of the smaller paintings because I still love the smaller paintings, but the larger ones, I feel that it just makes me feel the best, honestly. Like
Yeah.
I can get done with the smaller painting so fast, whereas with the larger one, I really take my time,
Yeah.
just because I have no choice. Like it's a really big canvas. I have a lot to do on it. So
Right.
it's starting to become my preference. But if you see me working on a smaller painting, it's because I'm literally trying to get rid of the canvases at this point.
So
So
how do you know when you're done? How do
I
you know?
yeah, like I have to force myself to be done from time to
Mhm.
time because if not, it could be a lot. So
Yeah.
honestly, it's like a feeling I get like, okay, there's really nothing else I can do. And that's not always a good thing.
Mm.
Because then it's like there's is really nothing else I can do with this painting.
I'm just gonna put the paintbrush down
Sit
and
down.
walk away.
If not, it could be a lot. It's forever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How's your daughter around you when you're painting? How does she interact with the paintings? How is it for her?
Not around me. Mm-mm. So a lot of the time, I actually paint at work. I work from home,
Okay.
so it makes it really easy to get done. It's like coloring while you're at work or something like that.
Yeah.
It's the same
Mhm.
concept to me. Um, And when I do that, she is actually upstairs with her dad. So
Mm.
from all of these chemicals. Um,
Yeah, that's
and
good.
yes, away from
Yeah.
it all. Now she does try to still sneak my paintbrushes. That's a fact. And she gets away with it sometimes. But fortunately, the paint is typically dry when that happens because all the
Yeah.
wet paint brushes are away. And then if I do paint while she's around, usually she's distracted and the paint is away and the canvas is kind of high, so she can't, you know,
So
poke.
how does she feel about the paintings? What is her reaction when she sees them?
She loves it. Like
Yeah.
she loves, even before I started painting, because she's two.
Yeah.
Before I started painting, she was always fascinated by art and color,
Yeah.
and I've always loved art. I just never really did it myself like that until now. But I have paintings everywhere just by different artists. So
Yes.
she's loved that forever. And now that now it's painting everywhere for real. She just stares at them. Like I said, she'll take my brushes from time to time and paint. Whenever I post that on TikTok, that is really a
What
thing.
she's yeah.
That's what she's doing. So she loves it, and she is really bad because now she tries to use her little chalk and do it in the house, and
I seen her chalkboard though. She's getting out there.
she's really good. She's real
Uh,
good. She's so good at it. But I want her to be good at it
and just
outside.
to enjoy it too, like have fun with it, get to know the vibrancy of colors, enjoy them, mess around.
That's very difficult sometimes. Like I said, I've accepted the fact that I need to let her be creative, but
Yeah.
we have to make sure it's in a space outside. Because
Yes.
inside, it could get really bad because it's gotten there
Yeah.
before. But like I said, oil paint washes off. So
That's another bonus. You're really selling me on this. Painting.
right on. It's
Oh
great.
my god.
It's great for sure.
Amazing.
Yes.